Hi guys, welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we got a fun one for you today. If we roll down the page here, I got some floating images there, and as you can see, they're floating up and down at different rates from each other. That's a really eye-catching thing to have on your site. Of course, you can have these pop out into a light box or link them to wherever you want if you need to. Now, we've done this before using a plugin called Supreme Modules. Today I'm going to show you how to do it without installing a plugin. Really easy to do, so let's get started. I'm going to enable the Visual Builder. Once enabled, let's roll down to where we want to work. There's my little images right there. I've got a section, the blue tab right there. Inside I've got a row with 3 columns. Let's get rid of the row and we'll start from scratch. So I'm going to add a new row. I'm going to put 3 columns in mine. Obviously, put as many or as few columns in yours as you want. And I'm going to use an image module for mine. And you can use any module you want. I happen to be doing this with images. As I mentioned earlier, Divi Supreme Pro, which is all these blue modules here, has a little module that will do this automatically. Supreme floating multi-images there. And Divi Supreme is an awesome plugin. If you want to learn more, have a look at the playlist down below. Like I said earlier, we're doing it without a plugin today. So I'm just going to use a regular Divi image module. Let's choose the image we want to use. I guess I'll use the same images as I used before. Now, as I mentioned earlier, once you've got your image in there, if you want it to open in a light box, just check that, switch that button on. If you want to link your image to a page or anywhere on the web, you can put a link in there. And always best practice, if you're linking to your own site, leave it in the same window. If you're linking off-site, open it in a new tab. That way your site's going to stay open. Great. So we've got our image in there, in our left column of our row there. I want it to sort of animate up and down slowly, almost like a floating or bouncing effect, however you want to call it. So while we're in the image module, I'm going to do a little bit of coding, and don't let that put you off. It's really easy. Over in the advanced, I'm going to go to custom CSS. I'm going to be using the freeform CSS tab here, which is great because it allows us to do slightly more complex CSS. Now, to target this image or whatever module you've put in yours, you just need to write selector, S-E-L-E-C-T-O-R. Then open and close some curly brackets. Now we can tell it what we want to do with it. Well, I want it to animate, so I'm going to say animation, colon. Then we need to give our animation a name. I'm going to call mine imflt. It's kind of my shorthand for image float. You can call yours what you want, but it wants to be unique, and it's a good idea if it means something to you. Okay, now we've told it that we want to run an animation called imflt. We've got to create that animation. And if you've seen my custom CSS videos before now, you'll know that we do these animations with keyframes. So I'm going to say at keyframes. And it's a bit like stop frame photography. We've got a timeline. And once we've told it keyframes, I have to tell it the animation name, which is imflt. And as I was saying, it's kind of like a timeline. We can have it run for as many or as few seconds as we want. So up here, let's tell it how long we want it to run for. I'm going to say 5 seconds, 5s. This is in our regular selector one up here. I want it to keep going and going and going. So I want it to be infinite. Infinite. There we go. Fantastic. Now we've done that, we can actually build our keyframes here to make this thing happen. So I'm going to open and close some more curly brackets after our animation name there. Now as 0%, or basically when the page loads, beginning of second one of our 5 seconds there. So I'm putting 0%. I'm opening some more curly brackets here. I'm going to say margin, top, 0. So it's going to start out exactly where it is at the moment. No change there. I'm going to copy this. Control C to copy. I'm going to drop down one. Control V to paste. And let's say 25%. Don't worry about the error messages right there. I'm going to say margin top. Let's say -20. That'll be negative 20 pixels. So that'll make it rise up just a little bit. Now, as you can see, it's already started to animate there. I'm going to copy this first one again. And at halfway, at 50%, or 2.5 second mark, let's paste that down in there. Put a 5 in front of it. I want it to go back to 0 position, top 0, so the normal position it started at. Now I'm going to grab my 25% one. I'm going to copy it, Control C. I'm going to drop down below the 50 there, paste it in. This is going to be 75%. At 75%, I want it to have plus 20 pixels on the top, so it pushes it down a little bit further at the bottom there. Then at 100%, I want it to go back to where it was originally, so starting position. So I'm going to copy that 0% one again. Going to drop down, Control V to paste. I'm going to make this 100. So that's at the end of second 5 of our 5 seconds. I want it to go back to normal position. Fantastic. Well, let's just save what we've got here. It's all working there. It's sort of rolling up and rolling down, which is okay. It's looking slightly jerky. And also, it's pushing our section below down further than we want it to go. I don't want that section below to move at all. I just want this image to float up and down. So let's fix that bit first. To make sure this row isn't going to expand and collapse there, we need to give it a fixed minimum height. So let's go into our row, the green tab. I'm going to go over to Design and Sizing. I'm going to use minimum height rather than regular height. So it can actually get bigger, but it can't get smaller. So minimum height on desktop, let's try, I think 300 pixels I used. I think I used a little less than that actually. Just put in the 300, I'll put in the pics. Great, now it's actually made that row bigger. It's not putting that section down. We can make it a little bit smaller if there's too much gap there. Try 250, I think that's going to be too little. Yeah, it's still pushing it down by about 20 pixels. Let's try 270. That's fine. No movement there at all. That's great. So we'll stick with that. And of course, if you want to use this on tablet and mobile, it'll work perfectly on both. Roll over the dark writing. This is common to all Divi modules. Thing you want to adjust, minimum height. If there's a little mobile phone type icon there, click on it. You can have a separate value for tablet. Click on the tablet one. And a separate value for mobile if you want to. Great. Well, that's working fine. It's looking a bit jerky. It's not looking real smooth and floaty. It's sort of stopping in between there. So let's fix that. We'll save this. We'll go back into our image module to fix this. Over in Advanced, back down to where we were, the custom CSS. To make it more smooth looking and less glitchy looking there, just after infinite there, I'm going to write linear, L-I-N-E-A-R. That should make it happen in more of a smoother line. That's more like it. It's just going up and down now without jerking in between. Perfect. Great. Well, of course, to duplicate this is really easy. Let's save our changes here. Duplicate it, just hit the two little squares. Once you've duplicated it once, grab one of them, drag it across to where you want to put it, which is in the next row. We'll do the same thing. Great. Now we want to change out those images. So let's go into our next one here. Put in whatever image you want to put in there. Now we'll go into our next one. Obviously, do the same thing there. And that's all well and good. I know they're not doing it at the moment, but if I was to save this and refresh the page, these would all be floating up and down at the same speed. And so it would look like the row was kind of floating up and down. We want to, well, let's demonstrate that for you so you know what I'm talking about. Let's save the page changes down here. Save draft or publish if you're ready. Then we'll exit the Visual Builder. Roll on down. As you can see, they're floating, but they're all floating at exactly the same rate, which is okay. You may want it just like that. But I want mine to kind of float at different rates, Really easy to do. So let's go back in there. We'll go back down. I'm going to leave the first one just as it is, but my second one here, we'll go in there. We'll go over to the advanced custom CSS. I'm going to change the time on this one, maybe 6 seconds. Or you can adjust the amount of margin on there if you wanted to, but I find this works easiest. And this one right here, over to advanced custom CSS. Now make this one perhaps 4 seconds. Obviously change the timing to whatever you want. Now we've done that, we can save our changes again down the bottom here. Save draft or publish if you're ready. And exit the visual builder. Now when we go down there, you'll see that our images are floating up and down at slightly different rates because we changed the timing on that. And that's pretty much identical to that Divi Supreme modules floating images module that I pointed out at the beginning. And it's a really nice eye-catching feature to have on your site. And as I mentioned, if you want to, you can have these open in a lightbox or link them to things, whatever you want them to do. So there you go, guys. There is how to create some floating multi-images without using a plugin with the Divi theme. As you can see, really easy to do. I'll put that CSS code down below the video for anybody that wants to copy and paste it. I would suggest that you write it yourself though, because writing animations and CSS is not difficult and it really will take your editing skills to the next level. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie from System22 and webdesignertechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.